I'm going to start with a story rather than finish with a story today. So I'm going to tell the story about my journey in YouTube and where I find myself now, and so decisions that I have to make. Hi, I'm Muzz iEvolv and welcome to iEvolv channeling for 2024. It's now 1 year since I was shadow banned. January 2023 is when everything changed. In December of 2022, I added 33 subscribers that month. And every single month, I was adding more subscribers than the month before, so continuously growing like that. And then I released a video on a topic which is foreboding, which may be the reason, or perhaps it's just the actual thematic nature of my content. I'm not exactly sure. And then I flatlined and I didn't add a single subscriber for about 7 weeks. And ever since then, I add very few subscribers, and for every 10 subscribers that I add, I lose about 7. The only time that doesn't occur is when I have a big influx. If I have lots come in at the same time, then it's very suspicious if Google was to take 70 of 100 new subscribers I just got. You can't do that and still look like it's an organic process. But I'm fairly certain that I am throttled in my subscribers. I'm throttled in how much my content is viewed. And when I do get subscribers, there is some type of algorithmic process to remove about 70 to 80% of all new subscribers I get. So, where am I right now? Well, the amount of subscribers I have today is 2 less than I had 7 weeks ago. So I've lost every subscriber that I've added in the last 7 weeks, plus an additional 2. And my last 3 videos are some of the worst performing videos that I've released in the last year and a half for actual channeling videos. Last year, I released about 40 channeling videos, and each one of those videos is a full day of work. So 40 videos, if you consider a 5-day working week, although I work 7 days a week, but if you consider like a 5-day working week, that's 8 weeks. 8 weeks of full-time employment. I'm at the point now I'm wondering, is this worth continuing in the way that I've been doing it? I think one of 2 things can happen. There are instances of people being shadow banned, and then eventually they're let out of prison and they can grow organically again. So this is my hope, that when the 1 year is up, they say, okay, you've done your penance, now we're going to take off all restrictions. That would be the best case scenario. And the other thing that I think could happen is that nothing changes or it gets worse. So I continue to be restricted, and so on and so on and so on. Now, the reason that this is of importance to me is because I survive from the revenue I generate doing what I do. And so when I'm not getting new people to come and see my stuff, I don't sell anything. I don't sell books. I don't do private channelings. I don't do any of this type of stuff, because all of you guys that are here on the long journey with me, you've bought everything. You've read my books, you've done my courses, and so there's nothing really new for me to give to you. And unless new eyeballs are coming in, then I just sort of stagnated. Nothing's happening. I'm not selling anything because there's no new people to sell to. So what do? I think I'll go a little bit longer releasing these videos, but at some point I've got to admit to myself, I'm just beating a dead horse. And although it's a painful admission, it seems I've been defeated by the system because it's so stacked and skewed against me. I'm not going to leave YouTube, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to release less videos on YouTube under the current conditions, because it's just not a very useful use of my time, especially when I'm barely getting by as far as covering the expenses of my life. I've moved to a very cheap location in the world, and everything else But this stranglehold on my YouTube account is essentially a stranglehold on my income. Once I realized that I had been shadow banned, I started moving everything I do into a different paradigm, where now I'm going to be advertising. I'm going to be relying on paid advertising to grow and eventually, essentially survive. So I'm going to be putting more of my focus into that this year and less of my focus into YouTube, although I still will be here. So I think maybe going forward, I'm going to release a video once every 2 weeks and just see how that goes. And I'll be doing that not because I get any benefit from it, other than I just wanted to be here for you guys. I want to give you the content that you have come to expect from me and to continue to share the message of my guides. But as far as what it's doing for what I'm trying to achieve here, nowadays it's very, very little. When you're going backwards in your subscribers, you swing up a river, but you're getting dragged back by the current. That's kind of what's happening now. So, just letting you know that this book is still available. And last time I spoke of it, I said I was going to increase the price to $7, but instead what I did was I decreased the price to $4. And for those who are paying close attention, I actually changed the title of the book as well. And the contents of the book is exactly the same, but I've just changed the title and the pricing because I'm getting mentored on how to transition out of YouTube into a paid advertising environment, and this is the advice that I received. And on to today's topic. It is, are you wisdom prepping? Greetings and thank you for the question. Are you wisdom prepping? Let us begin with first a definition. This idea of prepping, you may have heard of it, you may have not. The idea is that there is something coming that is going to be very changing, very upheaval in nature. And so there are those in your communities which have a sense of foreboding that in some near future time, they will not be able to rely on the structure or the infrastructure of your communities, of your societies, of your civilization to receive all the things they require to survive. Therefore, they are preparing for that possibility, and in the minds of others, it is for that inevitability. And in the lexicon of this particular subculture, it is called prepping. And we are doing our own little spin on this concept, because within this phenomenon of the prepper, of prepping for something occurring which changes everything, we do not hear anyone speak of wisdom prepping. And we think this is a very important component of this particular mindset, of this particular philosophy. And given that we also sense there are significant changes coming towards humanity, then it is pertinent that you are wisdom prepped, as well as all of the other types of preparation that you may envisage. So, let us begin in this way. If there is an upheaval, and this upheaval of your societies is so dramatic that it is unprecedented, then what this does, it eliminates your past experiences as a reliable source of information to make decisions in this new paradigm. Because the new paradigm is itself unprecedented. So there is nothing in history. There is nothing in your own personal experience. There is nothing in the experience of your own community which really equips you in the way that you would like to be equipped to transition safely, wisely through this new way of being. And with this particular conversation, we don't want to raise your sense of alarm. So we will say here that it is a transitional period which we see on the horizon, because the Cabal of Darkness, they wish to descend everything into chaos. And so from the chaos can rise their new order, the new world order. However, as the precipice is approached and eventually reached, the Cabal of Darkness will discover that they have less control than they assumed that they do. And they are less powerful over what transpires than they thought they are. And this will be an opportunity for humanity to step into its own, for humanity to start setting its own path. And this is being set up now, because when you look about the information which is seeping into your societies and making its way to each of you individually, for those that have widened their lens so they are no longer myopically focused solely on what is coming through the mainstream and are now open to other channels of information, are discovering that those who are at the levels of governance, at the levels of societal management, are very flawed human beings. And not only are they flawed, but they have a morality which seems to be absolutely counter to what you feel deep within yourself is how a human being should behave. They seem to have no regard for those that exist at the widest part of society, where it is the average men, women and children who are going to school, going to university, getting a job, getting a spouse, building a house, having families, and just living what is the very typical way that humanity has lived for a very long time, where life itself is about enjoying the journey from childhood to death, and along the way doing the typical events and demarcations of what it means to be a human being, to have a love, to have an occupation, to have children, to have grandchildren, to contribute to your society, to ensure that you hand on to the next generation which comes after you, your own progeny, a functioning version of the civilization which you inherited from those that preceded you. Yet this is becoming more and more difficult to achieve because everything is becoming less conducive to that particular way of life. And as these new avenues of information start opening up and getting greater access to your awareness, you're beginning to realize it is those at the levels of governance, those at the levels of power through money and influence, through being born into the dynastic families, which have so much sway because they control the major industries, which literally make humanity possible. They are the ones who are making it more difficult. They are the ones who are decreasing the security in your world. They are the ones that are infiltrating these radical ideologies into the minds of your children and so on. And the closer you look, once this gets your attention, the more it becomes apparent that this isn't the result of stupidity. It isn't the result of trying an idea which they thought would be good for everyone, but then later discovering that it's not, because it is just a mistake. Although this is part of the justification they provide as the reasons they do what they do, it is becoming apparent that they have as their agenda the literal destruction of your way of life, the literal destruction of your civilization, the literal perversion and toxification of your popular culture, and thereby of yourself, of those around you, of your children. And then if this becomes the prevailing mindset, which, as you will observe, is more and more so that there is greater and greater suspicion of the elite governance managerial class, then if this precipice is reached, where there is a descent into a breakdown of all infrastructure and chaos reigns, you as a whole, as a society of human beings, are going to be very suspicious about stepping into the new system, which is offered as the solution, when you understand the solution is being offered by the same people that deliberately engineered the chaos which ended the system, broke the status quo, and destroyed what had traditionally been functioning for many generations. And at this time, when you are at this fork in the road, do we go into this new system being offered by those who are the power brokers and the gods and goddesses of the New World Order? Or do we go our own way? If you are going to go your own way, then you are going to be stepping into something entirely unknown. Because all that has been comprising the infrastructure of the life that you have been living, of the life that your parents lived, of the life that your grandparents lived, and so on, going back hundreds of years, will no longer be present. It will have been deconstructed, dismantled, no longer functioning. Therefore, you cannot rely on the system to point the way. There will not be an outer infrastructure guiding you. Okay, you're this age, therefore you go to school. Okay, you're this age, therefore you go to college. Okay, you're this age, therefore you go into the workforce. Okay, you're this age, therefore you go into a relationship, into a marriage, into a mortgage, into parenthood, and so on. This is the way that you have been guided by the infrastructure of the society, which has existed for a long time to elevate further and further and further and further the elite class on the backs of the productivity of the underclass, of the average man, woman, and children. But the dawning realization means that this new system is no longer going to have the support of the people. So if you're going into a completely new place where there is no support from the infrastructure, you cannot rely on a pre-existing system which has been in place for generations. So what do you do? How do you know what is the wisest direction? On what basis do you make your decisions? Of course, the answer is they must be based on wisdom. They must be intuitively directed. So if you reach this place where you have stepped off the precipice as a society and everything has broken down and you are now staring into the void, unsure what direction to go, which decisions to make, because it is entirely unprecedented where you find yourself. If you are not in close relationship with your wisdom, if you are not steeped in powerful intuition, then you will falter. You will be erroneous. You will be a danger to yourself and those around you, because you will be making your decisions on the basis of your intelligence. You will be intellectually guided, and your intelligence is going to rely as much as it possibly can on the data it has accumulated through your past experiences. But if you are in an environment where those past experiences are not relevant, then it is likely you will be making decisions which are not the best decisions in the moment. If you are going to navigate wisely through this void of unprecedented experience, then it must be done by drawing on a capacity which lays beyond the intellect, coming from a source which can see not just the moment you are in, but also the moments which are yet to come, which can see into the future and can look at all of the variables, all of the different possibilities, all of the permutations which are available within the experience you are having. And so it can point you in a direction which may seem from an intellectual perspective to be counterintuitive. However, later it is revealed, once you arrive at that place, that it was absolutely a movement of profound and wise intuition, because it has brought you to this particular place. So, how do you wisdom prep? What do you do to bring yourself into a state of heightened capacity for intuitively peering into the future and bringing back to you a sensation, an impulse about what you need to do in this moment? This particular capacity of you, the human being, is so endemic into who you are that when there is this peering into the future, you do not even need to consciously go on that journey. All you need to do is send your awareness into the future with a expectation that it is going to bring back to you the intuitively wisest information to act on in that particular moment. And you don't need to go on that journey consciously, because subconsciously or extra dimensionality, you will make that journey. You will come back with the guidance which is most pertinent in that moment. So, if you are drawing on your extra dimensionality to gain access to this deeper wisdom, this profound intuition, then your wisdom prepping should be about expanding into your extra dimensionality, about becoming more than what you see in the mirror, about going beyond the intellect. So you are now an expanded being. Your self-definition is more than just the avatar you have known yourself as for most of this life, until you begin to realize, I am more than I see in the mirror. So, let us look specifically about ways that this can be done. You ultimately are the one. This is what you are. And the limitations which you have placed on yourself within this particular incarnation are the limitations of separation, the limitations by virtue of the belief that you are something much smaller, much less than the one is. It is the belief that you are the avatar. You are the person you see in the mirror, the designation of your name, the description of your appearance, of your achievements, of your family structure, your relationships, your work, and so on. As long as you are very focused on this particular lens, which only comes through the eyes of the avatar, then it is going to be restrictive of your ability to expand into your extra dimensionality. And so it serves you to begin thinking of yourself as the infinite energetic, the infinite, invulnerable, immortal. This is what you truly are. And so you have expanded many, many lifetimes. You did not start and end in this particular lifetime, but you have lived countless lifetimes before this one. And you will live countless lifetimes after this one. Because you are the infinite being. And the true designation of who you are is, in fact, when we look at you from the perspective that you are an individuation of the one. Because in the ultimate truth, beyond the illusion, you are the one. The one experiencing itself through the proxy, which is you. But the truest definition of this proxy is the higher self. And the higher self exists outside of time. The higher self is living all of your lifetimes simultaneously, meaning that it can see into the future, because for it is not the future. It is just a different perspective of the now. And so this higher self aspect, which is the true designation of who you are, as it has a view, it is experiencing all time as the current moment, then it knows exactly what movement to take in the present moment and view the individual avatar that is most conducive to the outcome that you want. So, your higher self is intuition in substance. It is wisdom in composition. Because these are artifacts of the one. And you are the one. This is what you are. And at the higher self, you exist in a very pure form of the one. You have individuation, but your substance isn't opaque. It isn't nebulous. It isn't shrouded by these beliefs of the mind of the avatar. And therefore, you have very direct access to the infinite wisdom and intuition of the one. If you can have a relationship with this higher self aspect, which is really to say to know yourself. Because in this idea of you having a relationship with the higher self, it still sets up this paradigm that it is something other than you. But really, it is you. And the avatar that you know yourself as is more of the illusory aspect of the higher self. It is just a flesh suit which creates a interface for the higher self to be part of the physical 3D experience. And this is your identity awakening, the realization that you are in fact this infinite energetic being and not the avatar. And when you begin to have an expanded idea of self, where you begin to perceive of self as the infinite, invulnerable, immortal that expands all time, then this expanded definition of self is bringing more of your extra dimensionality into your consciousness bubble. And it gives you greater access to your wisdom, to your intuition. And this is enhanced when you live as virtuously as possible. Because you are a being of the light and nothing but the light. And if you exist in any other way, if you hold any emotional state which is other than the light and love of your Creator, then you are misconceiving of self. You are believing you are something which you are not. So, when you are mindful of this and you try and remain aligned as much as possible with energetic and emotional states which feel good, because this is the feedback to you that you are aligned with who you actually are. And when you feel bad emotionally, this is an alignment with that which you are not. You are entertaining thoughts which are untrue, which are a misconception of who and what you actually are. And if you can stay in the lightness end of the spiritual spectrum as much as you can, because you have made this realization, I am the light and nothing but the light. I purge the darkness, which is your spiritual awakening. Then you start exhibiting the properties of the love and light of your Creator. And in every moment, you are a being of greater virtue, a being of greater integrity and honesty and dignity and courage and so on. And including wisdom and intuition. Because these are the abstractions and the artifacts of the love and light of your Creator. When you combine all of these with the understanding that your narrative in which you are immersed, coming from education, coming from media and law and government, are presenting a false picture, are telling you something which isn't actually true, because this is the mechanism by which you are being herded in a direction which culminates in the descent into chaos and then the emergence of the New World Order, rather than the emergence of the new human organic order. Then you can reject that. And this is your reality awakening. These are the three main awakenings which humanity must partake in to be ready for its ascendance into the fourth density. So, when you have these together, which you now do, you are in intellectual possession of these ideas, of these philosophies. And if you are here again listening to us speak, then we know that you are beginning to embrace and integrate these into your beingness, to live them in the most sincere way that you can. Then you are already increasing your capacity for wisdom. You are already increasing your ability to be intuitive. And you will be more prepared for when this moment is reached. The final part of this recipe, the last ingredient we wish to add, is that you must trust your intuition. And although this sounds like something which is easy to do, the moments when you will be challenged is when it is your intellect which challenges you, because you will have an intuitive feeling to make a certain decision, to go in a certain way, but your intellect will take a stand against your intuitive impulse. When these moments rise, it is important that you follow your intuition. The conundrum that arises in this situation, however, is that it is possible that your own intellectual thoughts coming from the paranoid mind could be masquerading as intuition. And this is why you must get into the habit of being a spontaneous being, of living in the moment and not curating your thoughts. Because if you are curating your thoughts, what is really occurring is you are curating your intuitive impulse. The things that come to you spontaneously are coming directly from the higher self aspect. Because the higher self aspect is real-time download streaming into the avatar to animate the avatar. And the proper way to utilize the apparatus you have been blessed with in this 3D physical experience is to allow the higher self impulse to emanate into the moment as your presence spontaneously. So it is not contaminated, it is not misconstrued, it is not changed into something which is synthetic and then delayed as a delayed synthetic signal. So when you are spontaneous and your inspiration isn't curated in the mind, then it can be trusted to a greater degree that what you are feeling impulsively is not the mind, but is instead the intuitive guidance of the higher self. This is easier said than done, of course. However, it is an inherent functionality of you, the human being. This has been engineered into your biotechnology. And all you need to do is to practice this particular way of being human. And you can increase its ability or activate it, switch it on by living more virtuously. Because when you are the wise, intuitive being, this implies that you are the high vibrating being. And to set the ambience for that capacity, then it makes sense you increase your vibration in all the ways that you can. And of course, this means living more as the love and light of your Creator, as we have said, but also, how are you treating yourself physically? Are you eating well? Are you sleeping properly? Are you hydrating as often as you should? Are you limiting the amount of toxins that you consume? And emotionally, what type of people are you spending your time with? When you are with other people, how are you behaving emotionally? And then also your mentality. What type of information are you consuming? What type of entertainment are you exposing yourself to? What are the lyrics of the songs which you enjoy to listen to? What are the undertones of the movies which you go back to again and again to be entertained? All of this is relevant. All of this is designed in a very deliberate way through those that engineer your structure, engineer your food, engineer your water, engineer your entertainment, engineer your education, to keep you vibrating as lowly as possible, as dense as you can be, so that you cannot elevate your vibration to reach these lofty heights where humanity becomes unmanageable, where the darkness becomes unshrouded, and the deception which they foist on humanity as a matter of existing, it is their very nature, becomes exposed and revealed to all of you that are ready to see that are vibrating high enough that you can see through the veil and understand what is truly occurring. So, let us finish in this way. Humanity is destined to become something very unique and magnificent, and it is with great anticipation that we stand by, waiting for it to occur. And although we have made the decision that at this point we are not going to intervene into the machinations of the human culture, the human civilization at this time, we have instead made the commitment that we will guide humanity in the ways that we can through the opportunities we have, which includes through this particular conduit you know as Muzz. And if you wish to heed this message, then you will find that it is a very simple journey to move to a place of greater wisdom, of greater intuition, so that when humanity does begin, or rather goes deeper into this dramatic change which has already begun, look around you, you can see it, you can sense it. Then at the point of the precipice, when all guide signs have been removed and you stare into the dark abyss, there will be a glowing beacon within which you trust emphatically, showing you the way to go, even when it is counter to what your intellect is saying. So closely connected to your wisdom will you be, so expanded into the high self definition, so understanding that the system itself has been designed by those who have malevolent intent. And so fully expanded into your true spiritual state, meaning that you are awakened in these three major ways, then you will, with uncanny dexterity, weave your way through the maze of obstacles, through the apparent dead stops which others cannot surmount, to live not only wisely, but abundantly, happily, contentedly, even while the masses around you declare that their lives are so difficult, are not worth living, are so insecure, and so on, and so on, and so on, because they have not wisdom prepared. They find themselves staring into the abyss without the tool set that you now have. So, we look forward to seeing you on the other side, to stand by you shoulder to shoulder when you are fourth identity beings, living in spiritual unity, fully awakened to your nature as the fourth entity, and ready to experience all that is available to you within that new energetic matrix of existence. Thank you, and we love you.